Hey lad.
Rich, how are you?
Just having a sip of water, you carry on.
Another version of the Everyman Can podcast, another episode. And we are in Persian cottage today in Middlesbrough. Again, panicking for a venue this week because these two let us down. Made no attempt. So, but again, it just shows. It came in here last night I was on the phone.
You in here last night again?
Yeah. No, I nipped in here last night.
You should have shares in this place.
Literally within 2 minutes I said, yep, no problem.
Yeah.
Hospitable?
Why are you shareholder? You're on the board.
Good as gold. How are you?
I'm fine. We were here last week, we were having a meal, weren't we? Just to get together and chat about the pod and different things that were going on. I'm good.
How was your...
the best place I've been in for a while, despite all the chaos around me.
You seem a lot better. How was your talk about your marathon on Sunday?
Well, yeah, I'm building up to do Hardmore's 55 as just another endurance event. So as part of that, I did a 29-mile trail run. Hardmore's Saltburn, which is 6.5 hours.
29 mile.
67th out of 122 or something, so happy with that.
Well, your Strava said you were second fastest.
Yeah, second fastest marathon. But I've never done a marathon. It's the first time I've ever done a marathon by itself. It's always been part of the Ironman. So, yeah, it was...
good achievement, well done,
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it. Yeah,
you do seem in a better place than you were.
Me and Beck's good at gold, and I mean, there's work in the council. It's chaos there at the moment, but at the end of the day, it's like you just got to do. You can only influence what's in your power, can't you? And everything else can just sweat off tomorrow else. Basically.
Yeah, man.
So that's where I'm at.
Good.
How about you?
Yeah, good. Start a new job.
Don't like to talk about it.
Interesting.
You can't talk about it. You can talk.
I've started working for the MFC Foundation.
Okay.
But so it's really just a big change from what I was doing in the police. But yeah. It's good to have a purpose.
How many hours?
28.
Brilliant.
28, great, suits me after everything I've been through. But last year and a half, I haven't worked, so it's a bit of a shock the system. I'm like, fucking, I have to
get the washing done.
I have to get up.
Yeah. Walk the dog at a reasonable hour.
Oh my.
Unreasonable hour.
Unreasonable.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been all right, man. Good journey.
I'm pleased for you. Are you working with young people and that kind of?
Young people, yeah. Just helping young people, guide them on the right path, hopefully.
Yeah.
Not telling them what I used to do for a living, so...
Well, the footy coaching you do and all that, you've got a lot of respect for the lads there, haven't you? And
I love that.
Yeah, you love it all, you do good at it.
Love the football coaching.
Fantastic.
The football coaching gives you a chance to speak to young people more.
Yeah.
Just, how was your day, how was shit at home, how was things with your dad, how was things with your mum, and they'll open up to you because it's football.
Yeah. Whilst they're actually training as well.
Yeah, and I suppose what the foundation brings is the power of the badge. That's what they use. So you walk into a school in a borough tracksuit, the kids, believe I'm with the borough today, and they go to the kicks programs which are run by the Premier League. So to them, it's like our Premier League are running. It's just fantastic, and there's so much going on in there. I'm like, yeah, it's nice. I'm working with some young, enthusiastic people, which is nice. Everyone, brilliant, been really welcoming. So no, it's spot on.
I know there's a couple more steps for you to go just to get to the absolute perfect place, but some things are unravelling.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to talk about it all soon, eventually.
If I want to.
It's not all the detail. It's wherever you want to go through, but ultimately, the place you've got to, it's moving forward on. Perfect.
Should we stop talking about ourselves then?
Yeah.
Hit the
That's
button.
all good. Let's get this on the road, shall we?
Hello, this is the Everyman Can podcast based on mental strength, how we can use it in our everyday lives, interviewing local people, using their experience, their wealth of experience through their personal journeys and their own professional journeys, how they use it for themselves, how they use it for other people, and hopefully you can take something from it. We hope you enjoy. So as we mentioned, welcome to another episode of the Everyman Can podcast. We are one light today. It's just me and Richie. Matt S has got a bit of not a family emergency, but he had to dash off and see his son, which is completely fine.
We wish him well.
Although he's let us down, but there you go.
Selfish.
So today we are interviewing Peter de Silva and Adam Petson from Recovery Connections in Middlesbrough. Welcome. Both all right?
Very good, thank you.
Good, yeah. Good.
How's your week's been?
Slow.
Very busy.
Is that the same thing?
We've immediately gathered that Peter's a grafter here.
He wants the world to know it's true. That's all right.
But I know we've cancelled on you a couple of times and venues changes, and it was my fault last week, so we do appreciate you being flexible. It means a lot to us. But so Peter, your bio, first traumatic event was when your mum passed away when you were 11. You then went on a journey, smoking weed, drinking alcohol, near enough straight after your mum passing. You put 2 weeks. Then through your teenage years, you went through the menu of drugs, as you put it, in and out of court for fighting. 17 to 18 years old, you started using heroin and crack cocaine. 21, you got 4 years in prison for robbery. You got out of prison and moved abroad. Came back to the UK and was in and out of prison for many years, heavily using drugs. 2017, you ended up street homeless. March 2018, went into rehab. 2019 to 22, you've done a Psychology and Counselling degree at Teesside Uni. And you are now 6 years clean in March, working and living a full life. You're a dad. You are the partner of someone. Are you married?
Not yet.
Should I not have said that?
No. I'm waiting for it to ask me.
We've got her on the phone now.
And you work for harm reduction support. You are a harm reduction support worker, Recovery Connections.
Yep.
So that's you. We don't often have two guests. So I've got two bios to do. Yeah. Adam's. I'm going to skim read yours because
it's fine. I realise I've given you quite a lengthy paragraph there.
So you are the Recovery Capital Development Lead for Recovery Connections in Middlesbrough.
Correct. Working
alongside Peter. And you are also a person in recovery for which you've said you're truly grateful. So your recovery journey from alcoholism began in June 2017, where you started a 24-week residential rehabilitation programme, Recovery Connections in Middlesbrough. And during that time, you went through a physical, mental and psychosocial process which allowed you to create the foundation and building blocks for your recovery.
Absolutely.
And upon leaving that programme, you were able to live independently with the support of the recovery capital assets that you had developed and continued to further your journey. And then having a sense of purpose being your primary objective, you were in search of something which could both aid recovery and your mental resilience to help you drive forward in your personal and professional life. Yep. So you decided to go back into education. You enrolled on an access to higher education course, went to a local college, and then you didn't really know where that was going to take you.
I was a bit unsure about. I wanted to go to university, but I didn't really know which course to pick.
So you picked
Psychology and Counselling.
Probably, yeah.
Same one as Peter, funnily enough.
And whilst you were volunteering at Recovery Connections as well.
Yeah.
Then in March 2020, you successfully gained full-time employment at Recovery Connections as a community recovery coach in Middlesbrough, and then working in a lived experience organisation, using knowledge you had from uni. It allowed you to have a better understanding of yourself, which is massively important. We always talk about that, don't we? And your own mental health, but also understand how you can better support the people across your service. And you've now completed a degree and also have a completed in trauma-informed practice master's degree.
Yep, that's correct.
This lad loves that. So in addition to that, you've taken on your current role, which is focused on creating the UK's first recovery city.
That's correct, yes.
What a journey.
Incredible. It's incredible, isn't it?
So the first question we ask everyone, and obviously you can answer this together or you can answer this separately, is what is mental strength to you? Peter?
No, I can't believe you put me first. So, mental strength to me, on the spot, is... So, mental strength for me is... I didn't know what mental strength... I didn't even contemplate what mental strength could be, for many, many years. I was in a whirlwind of delusion and insanity. And I ended up in a dark place in the gutter on the streets of Middlesbrough. It was horrific. And there was no mental strength in it. What I know today now through my own recovery is that what we say, and I don't know if this kind of goes against what we're trying to do here, but what we say is that it's not about. So what I always try to how I seen it was like a fight, and I was trying to beat drug addiction, and what I didn't realise was to win the fight you had to surrender, and it was about letting it all go, and just and starting from scratch and rebuilding myself, and through Recovery Connections and going to rehab, I found a way out to do it. I got shown by my predecessors and by the people who worked at Recovery Connections the way how to do it, and I followed what they said, and I'm here. Thank God I'm alive and I'm here.
that almost sounds like you're saying mental strength is actually about submitting to a degree, to like that the fact that you've got a problem, you need help to get it through it, basically.
Definitely, yeah.
Courage, and
courage, humility. Humility was a massive thing for me, because I had this false ego that I thought was Tony Montana, and and every 2 weeks on my 120 pound gyro I tried to be Tony Montana, and it lasted like 2 days, and then I was back to being Rabsy Nesbitt in the good, that kind of thing. And then coming to realise, hang on, Peter, you're bog standard. You're living on the streets, mate. You haven't got that much going on anymore. Your family have had to leave you because you were causing them so much pain and stuff like that.
I don't know why, I've got an image of you in a really smart suit with a string vest on.
I like it. I like it. I've got the belly.
Thank you, Peter. That's brilliant. That's really brilliant.
What's mental strength to you?
I think Peter's summed up quite a lot of it already, but I'm glad that you mentioned the humility angle. Being able to just, I suppose, to give in and to let go of those principles, that ego that was actually dragging you down. Thinking that you're something better than you actually are, and having this concept that you can continue to try and beat it, but you can't. Sometimes the only way you can beat it is by admitting defeat and starting afresh. So for me, mental strength means having the capacity to understand yourself emotionally, physically, mentally, having that emotional resilience, so understand when you're upset, but not be afraid of your feelings, feel them and own it, and really embrace your strengths, but also really embrace your weaknesses, because a weakness isn't a weakness for me. It's something that you can build upon, and if you can identify that is something that's kind of holding you back and dragging you back, then you can work. I suppose you can change that. So, mental strength for me is about awareness, real awareness of yourself, good, bad, and indifferent.
Absolutely.
So weakness is a strength, is what you're saying, isn't it?
It
And that's
really
so
is.
you touched on it, Peter, where you said like you had to really just realise yourself that you couldn't have got any lower.
Yep.
Give your head a shake.
Yep.
We need to sort this out, and that we talk about this a lot, don't we? Like it's the old thing of lads don't cry, lads don't get upset, but actually people see it as a weakness, but it is a strength, and so for you, Peter, and obviously I know you from being younger.
Yep.
I used to go out with your sister, so I got to know your family really well, brilliant family. Still, when I see them, it's very welcoming. So I have seen a bit of your journey through them darker times, because I think you were 14 when I first met you.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of violence, there was a lot of chaos, and you did have that sort of, you say Tony Montana, but let's be right, you didn't give a fuck, did you?
No, I didn't care.
But what I saw from that side of it was the impact it was having on your family, and it was really sad. So when you that bravado you spoke about, like the Tony, was that a deflection away from knowing what you were doing to loved ones, or so you had to put up this wall of like, because if you actually sat and thought about that deeply, I know you and I know your family, you wouldn't have gone back out and done what you did. But do you think that was just I can't think about that, so I have to be this big man?
No, definitely not. Especially at that age, there was no. I was that selfish, self-centered, and inconsiderate towards myself and my family. My role models in the town had Fiesta XR2s selling ounces and ounces of crack cocaine with big belcher chains on. They were my role models.
Yeah.
Some of my family were criminals or so, whatever. And these were all my role models who I was aspiring to be. And I thought that was, did I even put much thought into it? I didn't. That's just how it's. I was like the Tasmanian devil, just going around in this whirlwind and just going for it. And I was angry because hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Through what I've done in my recovery, I've learned a lot about myself and about my past. And what I realised was when my mum passed away, it made me angry. It made me angry that she abandoned. Like I felt abandoned. I know she didn't abandon me, but I felt angry that I was abandoned by my mum, and I couldn't understand why she'd left me. That was the thing. Like, why is my mum gone? And I couldn't understand. And in them days, I never got no counselling. Schools never it was just go back to school. And in school was the perfect environment, like the perfect storm to fight. People thought they were tough. I thought I was tough. And we just started to fight. And that's how it was, you know, and only until 36-year-old when I got clean, and because then it just got out of control, it unravelled, I didn't know how I ended up where I was, but then when I got clean, I seen it, I seen the patterns, I seen the behaviours, I seen how I landed there, where I got to.
Do you think it's belonging? I see myself at a really similar age, living in Park End, you know, and I came from a single parent family, so no male role model. Right. And back in the mid-90s, there wasn't a lot going on. You know what I mean? There was the rave scene and crime pretty much on the estate. Yeah. You know, people driving around in stolen cars and selling drugs and going out raving. That pretty much was the lifestyle. And for me, I felt like there was something missing. I didn't fit in. And I suppose because I didn't have that family unit at home, or for me, that male role model, which was really important, I then sought gratification and acknowledgement from my peers, but the only thing that my peers were interested in was taking drugs and fighting and stealing cars. So the only way to get recognised and be belonging and be part of something, even though it wasn't particularly what I want to be part of, was to do that stuff. So for me it was about something was missing, and it gave me a sense of belonging.
And you know what, for me as well, when I think about it, it's that way. I remember, so it's my low self-worth, my low self-esteem, my insecurity, so I felt like I couldn't perform at school because I was getting, as you know, I was getting kicked out of all the schools I was going to, and it was easier for me to be bad and act out and smash windows and get chased off the police than to try and buckle down at school. It just felt easier, and I got lots of attention, and I seemed to be accepted around my peers, like you said, that belonging.
It's interesting you say about attention, because sometimes, like I've used this comparison before, haven't I, about cats and dogs. I see people as cats and dogs. So some people will sit quiet, think about things, might be a cat, but people who are like a dog want attention, whether it's good or bad. So if you're getting attention and you know it's bad, but you're still getting that attention, it's attention. So it's a really interesting thing that you've learned. Is that something that you recognise a lot now?
Yeah, massively. Yeah,
attention from who?
I'm still like that now. As Adam knows, working with me, I'm still like that now. You know, but I work a lot in Home House Prison and in all the prisons up and down the country I've worked in, and they say we can just wind Peter up, push him out on stage, and he'll just perform for 2 hours. That's what they say, because you know I feel, and like I say, I also go to mutual aid meetings to sustain my own recovery, and sometimes I'll say, it's like the Jimmy Carr show. I'll give you a half an hour Jimmy Carr show, and and I like that when we're all having a laugh, and I think I'm funny. You know,
that's just your personality, isn't it? That's not any different, is it? I suppose.
Yeah,
but it's like what you're getting rewarded for, what environment you're in, who you're spending your time.
But that's healthy now.
It's healthy now.
That's a healthy attention.
I found a way. I found a way out to push it into healthy areas of my life, where before it was like, you know, bad Peter is, he goes to jail and he does this, and I'd thrive off that kind of attention.
So you can look back and see the circumstances you were in and see how that drove you into it. Why do you think some kids have those situations, you know, flung upon them, losing parents young, and don't end up down that road? Do you think there's differences?
Well, it's funny because me and my sister came from the same household. My sister was 3 years older than me. We both lost our mum at the same time. She reached for the stars and smashed it, and I went to the gutter and lost it. Yeah. And I don't really know. I do believe that addiction's a disease. Yeah. You know, it's a mental obsessive disease, compulsive.
When you were taking gear, when you started on that, can you remember the sort of what it did for you?
Oh yeah, I landed, you know, and so me and my mates hated it, like, you know, we looked down upon heroin addicts and crack addicts, you know, it was something that we'd never do. So when I did try for the first time, I was so ashamed of myself, and like I knew I couldn't hang about with them sort of people, but it was such a feeling of warmth, I've landed, I feel comfortable in my own skin.
Got you.
You know, that was how I felt.
I want you to hold that thought, Adam, for you as well with the drink. When you do, because it's not like we always say, it's not like anyone wakes up one day and goes, I know what I want to be. I want to be an addict. Do you know what I mean? What a fucking career.
Great life choice.
I've got it on my CV. I've been working, all the experience building up for this for a while. What about you then? What did you get from it when you started to fall into that?
Ooh. So I originally started on recreational drugs. Like I said, I was big into the rave scene and dancing, so I was taking a lot of amphetamine, a lot of E.
That was me.
Yeah, and I absolutely loved it. And I wasn't a drinker at all. But then I don't know. I got to a stage where I started getting really paranoid every time I'd pop an egg. I'd take it, and then like within 2 minutes I'd be sat in a corner shaking,
Right.
you know, wanting to stay away from everyone. And then I realised that once I started drinking, if I drank, I had a lot more control, and it gave me an element of confidence as well. You know, alcohol does something different to drugs, I believe. Well, from my own experience, anyway, it just gives me that real strength of newfound confidence to be someone. I suppose maybe the person I always wanted to be, you know, have that...
Without the inhibitions.
Yeah, you know, and be able to go and talk to people without having to worry about what their reaction's going to be, that kind of thing. But I remember, for me, alcohol, it just took away all of my woes. But it wasn't necessarily a problem for a long time. Like, I was going out every night of the week, even from the age of 16.
Yeah.
But the catalyst for me was when my brothers died. So when I was 20, I remember it really, really clearly. I was at home. Well, I was at my girlfriend's home at the time, and we were in bed, and I got a call at 2 a.m. Back on the days when people had a phone on the wall. And when I got the call, it was my brother, my second oldest brother, and he basically just said to me, you know, he said, your brother's dead. And he'd woke up and found him in bed that night. They were staying in a hotel, working abroad. And I later found out that he died through taking, you know, God knows how much cocaine. We'd never realised, but he'd been taking cocaine a lot for a long, long time. And he was heavily addicted, but he'd been drinking as well. So he had a heart attack at 32. And then that brother that made the phone call, he died 9 months later through a heroin overdose, which I believe was technically suicide. He never took heroin. I think he wanted to die. I think the pain was just too much. And that, for me, was the catalyst. Like, I was then using alcohol to self-soothe. I wasn't just using it as this thing that gave me the confidence to be able to go out and do those party things and be that party person. I started to use it as a medication. Right. I started using it because I felt so sad, and I was absolutely devastated. I was heartbroken. Yeah. You know, it killed me. It really did. And this just seemed to take away that pain.
Was it? I know you said earlier on, Peter, as well, that there was no other opportunities to get access to anything that would look vaguely like support, and maybe that you wouldn't have been open to that anyway. You would have maybe pushed that back. I don't know.
Yeah.
But for both of you, was there? What about yourself and Adam? Was there anything around at all to reach out to get any support?
I mean, it was obvious it was a problem. You know, yeah. I'd been from that age, from 22, I'd been doing it up until the point where I got sober, which was 40, and I don't know. It's a strange one, because I went through bouts of being okay with it, not being okay with it, drinking a lot, but then drinking a bit. So when I was happy, when things seemed to be going okay, I could wind it in a bit, you know, and maybe not drink all the time, maybe not drink for a couple of days, and just take it back to a weekend thing. But then when the shit hit the fan, then I would resort to really binging.
I can relate to that a lot with alcohol.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, especially the past 2.5, 3 years, I've misused alcohol a lot around just to cope and get to sleep. But then when you find things are getting better, you're like, you don't... Yeah. And it's strange how you go back to it when... Like, I had an appointment last week, which I won't bore you with, but it was really hard for me to go through. It's like the final step of something I'm trying to get to. And I finished the pint and I drank. Mm-hmm. Not to like a massive excess, but I was just disappointed with myself. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, you've done it again. Like, it might be 6 cans, it might be 4, but I'm still on that journey of like, I actually like, I really enjoy a pint. Like, I really love a glass of wine with nice food, but I still sometimes will use it, like you say, when it's a bit shit and you get some bad news or something. It's the first thing I would turn to.
I think for me it was escapism. It's really strange, it's hard to describe, but I almost feel in my head that I was meant for something more. I always felt so frustrated with this life that, you know, I'm stuck here in Middlesbrough and I'm not amounting to shit, and I've got dreams and aspirations in my head that I want to be something else, that I could be something else. And for me, the way in particular that I used to drink allowed me to go off into a different world, because I wouldn't just sit there with a pint. I would drink a pint of vodka neat. That would be my first drink on my own, you know, and I would just go into this whole new world in my head. So it was absolute pure escapism for me. That's what it was.
I'm going to say I can relate to that. Like bullying at school and abuse I experienced as a kid. Like I didn't understand any of this until I was a teenager. And weirdly, like started becoming sexually active when a teenager. All this weird shit going in my head. Like where's that coming from? Knew where I was, but all the friends and the choices I made were around people who basically were up to no good, and that I was involved in the rave scene and all that kind of stuff. And for ages, like, I chose friends on trying to blend in, not who was good for me.
Yeah.
And even though I could see friendships that potentially could have developed and would have taken me a different direction, I was playing up and I was being that joker in the classroom and all that, and then that carried on, into sort of jumping from one YT to a next and one college course to the next, not getting on with it, and eventually having like a bit of a wake-up moment where I realised what was these lads are around me. And that's another story to tell, but we were destructive as hell and were trying to drag me down, and I could have easily ended up. There was definitely several moments where if I'd gone down that road rather than that, we could have been having a similar conversation, like in a cell. Do you know what I mean? Genuinely. And so I get it. I genuinely do. And I just, if you could go back to the peak of your addictions and have a word with yourself, do you think it would make any difference? Is there any particular words you would say that you think?
I don't think anything would have made a difference for me, to be honest, because I was pretty much just waiting to die. I knew it was going to kill me, and the sooner the better for me, because I was so ill, like physically, mentally. I was just an absolute shell of my former self. So I don't know. I know some of the things that made an impact and with the turning point for me. But I can't say that you could have had a conversation with me at any point in that journey and it would have made a difference, because many people did. Yeah. Many people tried to say to me, they highlighted it, they said, look, what you're doing, you're killing yourself. But I just wasn't in that place where I wanted to listen. I think you have to get to that yourself.
What about you, Peter?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, what changed my life, was when another fella who I respected, he was an influence in the town, he had a reputation in the town, and he said to me, he was about, I think he was 4-year clean or something back then, and he said, and he talked about his experience of him going to jails, and when he said he was 4-year clean and how he does it, something dropped, and I thought, God, if it's good enough for you, it's good enough for me. And it was the power of that lived experience, and then he gave me the ability to be honest, absolutely brutally honest about everything, and I told him all my deepest, darkest secrets that I've never told anybody. He never judged me. And that was it. And and maybe if somebody like that came sooner, when I was younger, it could have been different. Who knows? But for me, I had to hit that rock bottom as well.
Just a couple of things just to go back on, because I want to let the chat flow a bit. There's the one that you said about you were waiting to die, and you've seen your brother go down the same road. Mm-hmm. My uncle, I think, well, he did. He just. People say he wasn't, like, instead of actually just doing the act of killing yourself, he drank knowing it's going to kill. And I think every day he probably woke up and thought, I have to drink that bottle of whiskey again because it's not worked. And is that something you felt? And is that something, Peter, that you, obviously at the time you were just hell-bent on doing whatever, but looking back now, you've gone through recovery and you've done a hell of a lot of your journeys and looking into yourself. Do you see that within yourself as well? Like that you were on a destructive path of, I could die from this, and if I do, so what? Were you? Did you not even think of that?
No, yeah, I did. I was absolutely self-destructive. My behaviour. Again, I didn't know it. I didn't know that I was doing what I was doing. But at the very end, death was attractive. Death was attractive. It was the easy way out. It was the peace I wanted. It was, but I couldn't seem to die. Something else took over me, and I was living on the streets in the Peace to the East in 2017. It was freezing. I was barred out of every hostel in the town, and I couldn't die. I tried to take my own life through drugs and couldn't do it. Thank God I found rehab.
Should we take a quick break and come back in just a second?
We're just having a quick breather from the podcast. Just to let you know, you can find Every Man Can on all your normal social media platforms. You can also get this podcast and all of our other episodes wherever you get your podcasts from. All we ask, and this is the only thing we will ever ask of anybody, is that you like, share and follow everything that we do, because all we do this for is to help and inspire other people. So, Peter, thanks for sharing that, because that was, I mean, I felt a bit emotional there, because obviously I've seen you as growing up as young and seen, you know, obviously your family and stuff, so that's a lot. But moving forward then, so
I'm just really pleased that you both are to be able to share the story.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us.
And actually, I was going to just elaborate slightly on that, what you said to Peter as well, that I think one of the reasons why I never stopped drinking, even though it was killing me, and I knew it was going to kill me, and I wanted it to kill me, was I was terrified of a life without it, because if I didn't have the alcohol, then I would have to start thinking, and the stuff that was living in my head would start to surface, and that was the stuff I was running away from. So alcohol allowed me to ignore that stuff, which I say that, but actually it doesn't, because the more you get drunk, then the more you actually start reliving these things in your head.
The hangover comes, and then you have the anxiety and all that.
It's just that circle that keeps going round and round and round. I feel terrible, so I need a drink. The drinks make me feel terrible. Then, you know, it just keeps going. It's a never-ending story. But I think one of the reasons why I couldn't stop was because I was too afraid to stop. I didn't know how to. I literally did not know what I could do.
Yeah.
So moving forward then, this question of both is answered how you will. You've had your light bulb moment. Recovery. I mean, your stories are like admirable, and I think a lot of people will probably have judged you for using drugs, judged you for being an alcoholic. Well, look at them and bad life. But really, you know, these people don't look inward within themselves and realise that actually drinking a bottle of wine and every night after work to come down from whatever you've gone through at work is alcohol misuse. And everybody does it. So that journey then, and then you start to pull yourself around. Can you remember when you actually thought, right, so you've gone on this, what I'm getting at is, so you, for example, Pete, you are 100% hell-bent on carnage, self-destruction, everything. You were hell-bent on, this drink's going to kill me, I'll just keep drinking. When the recovery comes, this is what I'm interested in, because it's addiction. Were you then addicted to recovering as 100% as you were as to self-destruction?
So I always say it, and Adam used me to say this all, I was a flat-out crackhead, so now I'm a flat-out recovering addict. I don't stop. It's like...
Addiction.
It's addiction, yeah, but I guess it's addiction in a positive way. You know, I'm flat out. I do this all day, then I go to my meetings on the night time. I'm just constantly in it. I do walks in the mountains with all me pals in recovery. I play golf with Adam. And like Adam's a big part of my recovery. I do all sorts. Me and Adam done the North Yorkshire 3 Peaks last year. You know, we do all sorts together, and that's it. It's brilliant. So
would you agree now? You're 100% into, because is this a form of what I'm saying? Is this a form of addiction? Maintaining your recovery?
It is. I might be slightly different to Peter with this stuff, because I've tried to incorporate an element of normality. So I was flat out recovery when I first started, because you need to keep yourself safe. You know, it's the relapse rate is really, really high, especially with people in early recovery. So you need to throw yourself into it, and you need to give 100%. But as time's passed, I've incorporated more of the outside world into my recovery. I wanted to make it less rigorous on the just absolute recovery stuff, and build a life around it. That recovery capital stuff that we were talking about earlier. And I remember when you talk about getting addicted to the recovery, I remember being addicted to the feeling. So there was a moment, I think it was probably about 5 or 6 weeks into being in rehab. So I physically started to feel better. I stopped shaking, started eating again. The colour was coming back to me. And we do a lot of really intensive work in there. You know, you have to really look into your innermost soul and break it down and change 100% as a person. But once that change started to happen, like literally once the mist, the cloud, like was gone from inside of my head, and I thought, well, like this is a different type of feeling. This starting to see through different eyes and feel like that there's a purpose. You know, there's something out there. That's what I kind of did get addicted to that, I'll be honest, and I just wanted to know more and more about it, and I became really inquisitive, and I was asking questions all the time.
Brené Brown said, I think, no, it wasn't Brené Brown. It's someone else who's basically a psychiatrist in America, and she said you can't wrap a recovery around a vacuum.
No.
And for me, I actually went after last time I made in the car accident. I went and did a photography degree, just something like I like photography. Someone suggested, why didn't you do it as a club? So I went and did it, and it filled my life for 4 years, and I ended up running as a business for a bit while on the side. And that was one of the huge factors in terms of giving me something to wrap it around. Has it been similar with you both? What you said about you started to integrate more external stuff into it? Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah, so I kind of broke the mold really. When I left rehab, I went straight back to work, and a lot of people were saying to me that you shouldn't really do that. You should take more time, just build yourself back into the outside life. Because I'd been in rehab for 6 months and I'd been wrapped in cotton wool, but I was adamant that I wanted to go out there and explore the world with this new way of thinking and this new way of feeling, and I felt like I was comfortable enough with the tools I'd been given to deal with any adversity should it approach itself.
Okay.
So I thought, why not test the water and go back to work? And I know a lot of people would not even consider going back to work for at least 2 years or getting into a relationship. There's a kind of 2 year guideline, isn't it? Don't get into any shit for 2 years. Don't put yourself in a situation.
No relationships for 2 years.
Yeah. But I thought, no, I want to kind of buck that trend a little bit. And as it turned out, I hated the work. I absolutely couldn't stand it, which is why I went to college. But at least I saw it for myself. And
good motivator,
yeah.
To be fair. You actually get into a position rather than just being in any job to get money, to get booze.
Yeah.
Basically, you find yourself, I want to be doing a job where I feel purpose in it.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, going and earning a wage for those 6 months. Yeah, I had money in the bank, but it just meant nothing to me because I hated the job.
Yeah.
It was awful. So having cash in the bank account just did not do enough for me. I thought I need something that's going to give me a reason for getting out of bed, basically.
Which brings me on to the pair years, working at Recovery Connections. So from where you were to do all of your degrees that we discussed in the first place, to then land a job at an establishment which has helped you, and you're giving back. Talk to me about your roles separately, but also, is it important that you, like you say there, is it important for your recovery that you remain within that environment of helping others?
Yeah, so for me, I'm a lived experience harm reduction worker, which I'm outreach. So I walk the streets of Middlesbrough. I'm giving out clean needles. I'm administering naloxone when people are overdosing in the street. I'm doing wound care with the legs. I'm taking them to hospital. I get people I help with housing. I work with the homeless team. I do homeless sweeps at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Go out with Middlesbrough Council. I go in jails. I do a lot of work in prisons now and get the lads like on pre-release, trying to support them in treatment and housing and stuff like that. And it is I can't believe I get paid for it. I come to work, I'm over the moon every day. I'm happy and I'm getting paid for something that I love to do. It's brilliant. It just keeps giving this stuff. But I believe by working in this, I need my own personal recovery. I need to keep my personal recovery separately and keep, because I think the more I work in this, the more I need my own recovery, because I'm in the carnage here. I'm in the trenches. That's where I'm at. I'm not really in the building that much. So my job mainly is trying to get people in the building, I guess, and trying to get them involved in recovery. So working in the trenches where I came from, like today I've been to North Ormsby and I've seen some of the lads who I've known from back in the day, and they're not in a good place, and it triggers me. But there's some deep, dark rooted thought still in my head that says that doesn't look too bad, that's exciting, and these lads are not looking great, So I have to now what I will do, I'll go and speak to my people, my sponsor and my recovery, and I'll talk to them and tell them about my thoughts, and I'll get a different perspective on it.
Did you both do the 12 steps recovery?
Yeah.
Is that the form? Okay, so the only thing I know about that personally is reading Russell Brand's book on recovery, which is like a slightly reworded version of the 12 steps.
But it breaks it down nice and simply, yeah.
We can't trust Russell now.
No.
Allegedly.
He's messed up.
So for you, Adam, then, working Recovery Connections, sorry, Rich, does that aid your recovery, and just give us a bit more about what you do?
Yeah, so it 100% is me in my own recovery. So I am the Recovery Capital Development Lead, so I'm looking to build that recovery capital within the Middlesbrough community. But I also, it's also called, I've got a couple of titles really, so it's BRIM Lead, which is Building Recovery in Middlesbrough, which is that whole part of creating the UK's first recovery city.
Right.
And I also do students in recovery, so I do a lot of work with Teesside University supporting students who are in recovery. So I'm spread out quite, over quite a large area, and I absolutely love it, but I also do get to spend a lot of time in the main building with Peter and the other guys, and I still do a lot of hands-on work, and you can't help but get involved with it, and I think ultimately we can't help that because we care. The beauty is, having been there and having felt it and having seen, been part of that, you can see it in other people, and you really just, I can't help but care about it, and I see that pain in someone's eyes, and I know there's a way out, so I'm compelled to try and help them, which in turn helps me. And like Peter said, we see people at all ends of the spectrum. Some people are doing really well, some people who are at the very start of the journey. And when it's particularly messy, I can look at that and think, some people might think this is a horrible way to look at it, but I can think, thank God that's not me. I used to be there, and it inspires me and motivates me to make sure I never go back to that.
Right.
Because that's where I was.
Yeah.
So you can use it as a motivational tool as well.
So you both touched on coping mechanisms, I suppose, which is one of the things we ask is what advice would you have for other people around maintaining their mental strength? And I suppose where you two are coming from is you've gone into the recovery and you're maintaining it. So I know you just like to be flat out, but them thoughts, you got, that looks all right, that, but you're looking at them thinking, well, they look like shit. So what methods do you use to keep your mental strength going, and what advice have you both got for other people?
I try and remain honest to myself. I'm under no illusion. I could relapse at any moment. I see it all the time in this game. I know someone 11 years clean, really good job and all that, relapses, and I've just got to keep doing what I'm doing. And for me, I keep connected. There's loads of cringy scenes when you first come around in recovery, and I used to think, oh God, here we go, I'm in the God Squad and all that, and tambourines are coming out here, stuff like that. But then now further on, I understand them. I understand the meaning. And they say connection is protection, and we've got to change our people, places and things, and that's what I had to do. I had to change the people I was hanging about with, the places that I was going and the things that I was doing, and I'm surrounding myself with the likes of Adam and other positive influences in my life, and I seem to be reaping the rewards. And it's I need Adam as much as Adam needs me, and we all know, and there's no hierarchy in this game. You can be 20 years clean or 20 minutes clean, and we're all the same, and that's it's amazing.
Adam?
It can change from day to day, to be honest, what the kind of things I focus on, but I think having a good all-round understanding of yourself, and I think we are our most hardest critics. No one is harder on me than I am. And I just have to take the foot off the gas and go, do you know what, you're all right.
Be kind to yourself.
Yeah, and just accept that I am me in every shape and form, whether it's a crazy thought, whether it's a happy thought, whether it's an emotion I don't fully understand. It's really difficult to put it into a couple of sentences, but just be okay with me. There's been quite a few times when I'm driving into work or I'm walking around somewhere, and my head, it just feels like 24 hours a day, it's just full of thought. It will not leave me alone. I just crave sometimes for just a bit of peace and quiet in my own head. And I'm watching people walk down the street or drive past the cars in front of me, and they look like they're just in this perfect, beautiful, blissful place where there's not a thought going through their head. And I just think, are you like me? Have you got a million thoughts running through your head at that very moment?
Yeah. And they have.
You don't. Yeah, but we don't think that though, do we? We think we can go into a real victim mode and think, I'm absolutely Looney Tunes.
I think everybody in some way, shape or form has an addiction.
Yeah.
I'm a great believer in that. And whether it's putting a bet on a Saturday with the lads, or you're doing an accumulator, or whether it's to the depths of where you used to have been, or whether it's
mobile phones.
Mobile phones.
Yeah. We all had
exercise. helping people. They're all forms of addiction, and everyone in some little way has it. And I overthink massively, like you probably are touching on there. Like, but when you two talk about your relationship, like, and I'm not just saying it because he sat next to me, but without him, I might not have got through these past few years, because some of the advice he gives me is like, Matt, so fuck, you've had 8 cans and you feel a bit bad about yourself. Look at what you've been through. Don't be so hard on yourself. Just as long. And he always says to me, you've recognised it though, and you've recognised it quickly. So that means you can deal with it quicker. Yeah. It's when you don't realise, then you have 8 cans the next night, 8 cans or whatever it is. But without it, in them relationships, especially as blokes, for me is massively important. And my circle used to be huge, and now it's so small because I've made it small. Yeah. I'm like, do you know what? I don't need you in my life. Don't need you in my life. Yeah. I need him in my life, massively. And you, as blokes, you've got to tap into that. Yeah,
you do. And a big thing is, that connection with someone else is massive. Cheers. But the personal work, declutter what is going on in your life. Declutter the things that have held you back. Because a lot of what, for me personally, a lot of what was holding me back was the guilt and the shame of the things that I'd done and the people that I'd hurt, but also the people that had hurt me. And I was angry and I was resentful, and some nights I'd go to bed dreaming about how I could kill someone and get away with it, because they'd really piss me off.
Yeah, I could probably tell you that.
Yeah, and and that sort of thinking isn't good. You need to let go of that. Yeah. So how do you let go of that? Write it down. Speak to someone about it. Someone who won't judge you for it. Someone who won't think you're absolutely crackers. And then once you can burden yourself of those things that when someone says to you, does that really matter? That person did that 20 years ago. They're not thinking about it. Why are you still thinking about it? And go through that process of decluttering all of that baggage, that mental baggage that's been a problem, and then you can start to work on the inner stuff. Once you've created space in your head to be able to do the work, then you can start to look at your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviours. And you were talking there about what people do out in the normal world, going and having a bottle of wine, gambling, all that other stuff. What are they doing that for? It's an avoidance of something. What you're running away from. And what you want to get into a space is where you don't avoid anything. Absolutely. You embrace it. 100%. You say, come here, I'll deal with you. It's not a problem. It's just a thought. It's just a feeling. It's not going to kill me. But if I continue to let it snowball, it could eventually.
That's that shadow work that's so important to do. Basically, often we do know. I mean, you said it earlier on. It's not like you don't. Even when you're going through it, it's not like you look at yourself and always feel dead proud of what feel proud of your behaviour. You know where you are, you know what you're running away from, and you know what your likes are, you know what your dislikes are, and you know that they don't match up with the people around you. And so at some point, and like I did, and like you have, you cut those off, you create a new environment, and I completely agree. In fact, I'm only just repeating back what you've said, that you put in much better words than I ever could, which is that's when you find the space to be able to find exactly who you are. Now for me, it was about kind of, I don't know if there was particular values or things that were introduced to you as a kid that you went back to a little bit, like that you may have moved away from. That was for me, and I'd sort of push back against that because of the different things that had gone on in my life. And at some point I was like, this isn't actually me, and I had to recognise that, what the fuck am I doing? What am I doing on these clowns who are just trying to drag me down, taking advantage of me, and actually just shaping me to be someone I don't want to be anyway. And it takes, I genuinely do think it takes a lot of courage to sometimes just be you. The things you like, the music you like, the conversations you like, everything, the things that actually make you happy. And the term I keep coming back to is people have to find what works for them. Yeah. And on that, I want to bring it to a conversation about the medical model of support, basically. So the recovery model is a very, as you've mentioned there, it's a very inward-looking model with support. To dig up all your shit, reflect all that back, make your apologies to people, right?
Yep.
Write all that stuff down and make a full log and all that kind of stuff. Go through it, understand it, find compassion for yourself to understand why you did those things, forgive yourself for it, and forgive those others around you, right? Mm-hmm. And actually, a lot of that is done within a recovery space, 12 steps in this situation. And it's not something that happens by being a good pill taker. Therapy might be a part of it to help guide you and provide that care, support, and safe space. But by no means have I ever heard any stories about recovery that come down to just being a good pill taker and attending therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your relation? I'm not particularly looking for a certain answer. I've got my own thoughts on this, but what are your thoughts in terms of the medical model as we've got it now for mental health and the type of things that can lead to addictions and where you think we need to be as a society?
Do you want to take that? Or?
It's like dual diagnosis, isn't it? Touching on.
Oh, do I go down this rabbit hole? So for me personally, I have a problem with the medical model. I believe there's absolutely a place for medication, and I believe there's absolutely a place, for those types of treatment. There's some mental illnesses that need to be. They need some form of pharmaceutical method to make it better. However, I do believe that we've kind of got ourselves into a situation where we believe the only thing that can fix mental health is some form of tablet. And I think that's a real cultural thing that's going on and has been for quite some time. I think we've kind of been brainwashed into this thinking that we need a diagnosis.
It's the easy way out, right?
Yeah. It takes no effort at all to take a tablet, does it? No. And I realised actually what will get me well, or what did get me well, was absolute hard graft, painful looking inwards at everything that needed to be looked at and dealing with it. And changing as a person, and a pill can't do that. And I have seen so many examples where people have been put on antidepressants and it hasn't changed a thing other than their demeanour. They're almost like a shell of their former selves. They can't feel those feelings anymore. And I believe there's a place for everything, and maybe medicating it to an extent is where it should be, but with a course of some form of counselling where you work on those feelings and behaviours, the things that made you do what you do and why you feel the way you do. Because the tablet is just blocking out the symptoms. It's not dealing with the problem.
Yeah, certainly. Okay. How about yourself, Peter? Thank you.
Yeah, it's the same. He's like, the tablet is like putting a plaster over the wound, and the wound's still there. I remember like loads of sayings used to get told me, like they used to say. I used to think I suffered with depression for a long, long time, and when I found recovery and people spoke absolutely brutally honest to me, they said, "Peter, it's not depression, it's self-pity, mate." And I was like, "How dare you?" And through my recovery, I absolutely know now, because I've got a little bit of self-awareness, and I absolutely know when I'm going into self-pity and feeling all sorry for myself, and and they said to me, "Peter, there's not a chemical solution for a spiritual problem. You've got to get out there on the hills and find some nature or find something that you enjoy." I've jumped out of aeroplanes and all sorts, to try and find that, to fill that void. And it does me well, it does me well. But like Adam, like the dual diagnosis is great. We've got it now in Middlesbrough. In Middlesbrough Council, I work closely with the dual diagnosis team. But again, the snowed under, the resources aren't there. So like for ADHD assessment now, like you're not getting it anymore of them. You have to go to your GP. Well, we all know how long it is to get into the GP. So everything's a long time, resources and a lack of.
I'm kind of blown away as well. I mean, I share those views with you, Adam, with you both about kind of pharmaceuticals. I do think there is a place. As far as I can tell, the evidence has never said anything more than advised for about 8 to 12 weeks. And I've met people who've been on for over 20 years. Yeah. 20 fucking years. And I'm like,
and why are they still on them?
Exactly.
But why?
Well, basically, the problem still exists, basically. It doesn't go away. They haven't gone to the root. And actually, I mentioned the lady on the last one that I did some work with, IEMT and NLP and so on. And she had a phenomenal result from just 2 sessions, 24 years.
So remember early in the conversation I said I never stopped drinking because I didn't want to open up that thing in my head. So alcohol stopped me thinking.
Yes.
A lot of people won't stop taking the antidepressants because they're worried about what they're going to start thinking about when they do. Yeah. And the chemical element, they also will have to have some form of detox.
Absolutely.
Which again is painful. Their body will go through a detoxification process and they will withdraw from those antidepressants and it'll feel awful.
Well, it always feels like I was doing that run on Sunday, and when I do these sort of extreme things, which I constantly keep building up and keep doing, that's part of it. And it feels like a rebirth every time. Like you go to a dark place, you come back stronger and going, fucking hell, I did it. Like it was halfway through that when I was nearly like, fucking, I'm going to get through this, do you know what I mean? And you come back from it, take some Haribos,
Yeah.
they're better than speed, I think, in this case. And then, you come back from it, and I feel like every time I do that, I'm keep pushing my boundaries, my comfort zone, and that's the thing. I want to get. Well, maybe one day I'll get to that day where I found out what that limit is, but until then, I keep growing, and I think if that's the same, if you find similar ways, you mentioned.
And that's something that I found in my recovery when I first come about. Someone said to me, "You suffer, you're scared, you Pete. You're riddled in fear." And I was like, "Mate, I'll fight anyone. I might get battered every time. I might get done in all the time, but I'll still turn up and fight." He said, "Right, that's all well and good, Pete. I want you to go in that room tonight and talk in front of them 30 people." I said, "I can't do that." He said, "Why not?" And then it was like a revelation. I was like, "Because I'm scared." He was like, "What you scared of?" I was like, "Looking stupid, getting something wrong, feeling like a dickhead." So he said, "Now what you have to do, Pete, is challenge that thinking." And then that became like an obsession. So I started to challenge myself all the time. So then he said, "I think you should go to college." I said, "I got kicked out of school when I was 14. He said, "Listen, challenge it." Went to college and I challenged that. Went to uni, challenged that. And I just challenged all this negative thinking throughout my life.
So now, would you tell your story in front of 50,000 people in a room?
I've trained Middlesbrough police in the lock zone, and they used to get up and say, "Peter, what Peter's telling you is true," because we have raided his house on a few occasions. There was a couple in there. So yeah.
So unfortunately, we're coming a bit of a wrap up towards the end. It's a question I wanted to ask you, so it's an individual question. Answer it as you will. What are your dreams, hopes and aspirations for the future then, for the pair of yous?
So for me, my dreams, goals and aspirations are, number one is to stay clean. Stay clean, because as long as I stay clean, I get everything else in my life. And that's short. I've got evidence of that. I've got my family, I've got a beautiful family, I've got great relationships with my sister. Everything's great. So I've just got to stay clean, keep challenging that my negative thinking, keep connected, and hopefully, I'm living the dream. Fantastic. I'm living the absolute dream.
Yes.
For me, I just want to stay happy, and I want to be healthy, and I want to be modest, and I want to have that humility still. Every day I learn something new, and I'm really open to the fact that I don't know everything, and I love that because I feel so enlightened when something new comes along, and I suddenly think, "Oh God, yeah, that makes total sense," and I'm going to incorporate that into my life, and I just want to continue to make things better. But ultimately, I think if we were looking at my life as a whole, one of the things that scares me the most is laying there on my deathbed and just thinking, "You've wasted this. You've wasted an opportunity to have a beautiful time, to experience this as it's meant to be experienced." This construct that we live in, this society of having to achieve things and overachieve and have shitloads of money and God knows what else, it means nothing. The one thing that makes me happy is being well, knowing that my family, who I love more than anything in the world, are well, and just I'm a good person and I'm proud of me.
It's beautiful.
John Lennon, wasn't it, at school? He had an essay at school, I think it was John Lennon, and it was like, right, do an essay assignment on what you would like to be as you're older. He just wrote happy.
Yeah.
And when you strip that down to kids in school now, even then whenever he was at school, it applies to everybody in every walk of life, in every country, in every continent. That's all people want to be. And I think if I was a teacher and a child wrote that, I'd think, that's brilliant.
Smashed it.
It's one word.
Yep.
Happy, joyous and free.
Yeah.
There's,
but also,
go on.
Be aware that not every day can be happy, joyous and free,
Yeah.
and be okay with
Be
those
all right
days.
with that.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, that's actually the real storm to weather, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's the nature of as Jordan Peterson puts it. He's one of my inspirations. He'll put it in the way to say, life is suffering, and actually you better get damn good at it. And actually, if you can't suffer your own fucking shit, you're going to struggle to suffer other people's as well. And that shadow thing, I think, is one of the most powerful things, And this is a tough one, but my 16-year-old son is at a place in terms of his own knowing his own values. Like I've always talked to him about this stuff. As I've been going on my journey 15 years, he's always talked about. He's always listened to me talk as we go up, and he'll come to me and talk to me openly. Anyway, his choices of friends, small friendship group. His choices of friends are based on his likes, his values, what he likes, and he's lost friends. He's set friends aside based on them breaking those rules. and he's 16, and I'm like, fuck, I wish I had that when I was 16.
To
And
have boundaries at
he
that
came,
age.
yeah, it's incredible.
Healthy
And like,
boundaries.
he knows himself. He's learning guitar at the moment, and his friends are all into rock. I'm going to see Johnny Marsden live and all that. He's dead excited. But he come to me last week. I can't share too much detail, but ultimately it was something where someone had brought something to his attention, which was a criticism. And he basically, I said, well, what do you think of it? He said, well, I think they're probably right. I was like, holy fuck! Like, he's just starting to look at his own shit and have that, that modesty you're talking about. So what do you want to do about it? I want to change it. Let's have a chat. So we sat 15 minutes in my van and had a chat about it. And I was so fucking proud. And I told him a big hug at the end, and I was like, I just can't tell you. I'm actually getting upset just thinking about it now, because like, if I had those skills when I was, that insight when I was his age, it might have been different. And so one thing I would say is that's where it's got to be. You have to look at your own behaviour. And I genuinely think a lot of people are walking around on autopilot, in that hyper-arousal sort of just responding, reacting to everything that's going on, and not taking that time to spend...
And judging other people.
That's it. And not taking time to go, actually, what am I putting out into this world as well?
Yeah. My life had been spent trying to achieve other people's goals, the goals that I think society think that I should achieve.
That's
and,
it.
And it made me really, really ill, rather than just being happy with who I am.
That's beautiful, man.
Good way to wrap up, I think.
Thank you both, Adam, Peter.
Thank you.
Beautiful
Thank you
to
very
meet
much.
I can see coming on again in the future.
Oh, yeah.
Some
another
load
hour.
more chat about what's going on locally as well. If you'd be up for it.
Love to.
Thank you very much for your time.
Cheers, lads.
Thank you. Thanks
Take
very
care.
much.